Welcome, Lauren. Thank you for joining us in one of our videos for the book for Everyday People, Everyday Leaders. And in this particular video, we're going to be exploring the topic of defining success. But it's a rather strange video because normally it's me interviewing people, but today the tables have turned and you have my clipboard and you're going to kind of interview me and we're going to explore that whole concept of defining success.
Well,
so
I'm excited about this, Colin, because when I first read your book, you asked for some feedback, and my feedback was, it's not finished.
Yeah, so I remember that very clearly. It's one of those things, you think you've ticked it off, I've done the book, great. It's now gone off for kind of proofing and that sort of thing. And you said, yeah, I needed to do more. Yeah, another chapter.
Well, really the essence of that is that through the book, you explore the core values that sit at the heart of being an everyday leader. And in chapter 12, what you unpick is what it means to be successful and how you can demonstrate success in different forms. So my first question is, have you been successful?
Yeah. And I remember actually as part of that conversation, you said that to me. You said, look, you need to highlight, have you been successful? And I had a bit of trouble with that when you first asked me, because, yeah, what is success? Because in one sense, if our criteria is we've hit all the data targets, or we've turned the money round, or whatever it might be, if we view it as that, have we been successful? So in one sense, as I look, and I talk about this in the book, did any of my schools win national awards? No, they didn't. I had one school, we got a really good rating in terms of Ofsted, but the ending of my last one wasn't so good. It wasn't as planned. So in one sense, you could look at it and go, well, has he been successful? I also didn't want to be like, look, here I am. I have done this. It's not that. But I think it is important for us to really understand what true success is. So actually, as I explored that chapter following your question, it helped me to really unearth that success, yes, can be about the data. It can be about, and clearly you have to have that. If you're working in a school, we have to get it to help children. If you're working in business, you have to make your business tick to make money or deliver the service. You have to have that element. But success is more than just the data or the numbers. For me, it's much deeper.
And I think in that lies your success, because your success is the fingerprint that you leave on the lives of others, of which we know through your work and through your personal connections. That's an immense fingerprint to leave beyond your own being. So in chapter 12, you talk about the concept of Ubuntu. What is it and how important is that in success? Yeah,
so Ubuntu is not perhaps a word that we use in everyday language, because it's not English. It's an African concept. And Ubuntu means I am human because of the other. It's this sense that we show true humanity when we are actually living for others, not just for ourselves. So for me, that's about the heart of a leader anyway. The heart of a leader should be that we live for others, not for ourselves. So for me, part of success is that we judge ourselves, exactly as you've described, what fingerprint have I left on the lives of others? For me, it should be we're successful leaders when we leave the room, we leave people in a better position than we found them. We have developed them, we've encouraged them, we've helped them to see themselves as leaders of themselves, we've helped them to discover their skills and their talents. For me, one of the successes of my leadership is that, I still bump into people that say, oh, I used to do this, but now I do this because I remember the conversation you had with me, that you highlighted the amazing potential that I had. For me, one of the successes is, I think there are 14 people that have now either are or have been head teachers who used to work for me. Now, some might say, Colin, you've just thrown the lamb to the slaughter. Why have you wanted more people to become head teachers in the challenge of education? But for me, that is actually about people seeing they have the potential to be significant leaders for others. So for me, that's a key part of it, that we're successful in leadership when we understand that concept of leading and developing others. And that as we look back on, have I been successful? Yes, I have hit the targets on the numbers or not, but actually, am I leaving people in a better position than I found them?
And I think that in that, you're writing quite a different set of criteria for what makes a successful leader, aren't you? So what would be on your success criteria for successful leadership?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question. Success criteria. I think for me, it comes back to some key bits in the book about, I talk about know, show and grow. So for me, one of the things is about knowing yourself as well, knowing your limitations. You're successful as a leader when you understand yourself, you know what works for you, what doesn't. You know when you're de-energized and what energizes you. And we're no good as leaders if we finish at the end of it and go, right, I've hit those number targets, but look at me, I am knackered, I am worn out, and I'm good for nothing. So the first success of leadership is that ability to know yourself, also to know the people you're working with, to know when it is time to take your foot off the accelerator and when it is time to accelerate and work with people. So it's really crucial you know yourself. I think also success as leader is when you show others and you model to them what's expected, and you then see that being put in place. And then that final one about growing people comes again, leaving people in a room better than yourself. So those key aspects should be a key part.
And perhaps if you're judging impact as part of that success criteria, you'd look at impact more broadly. So what's your perspective on the place that measuring your impact has as a leader?
Again, I think that's really important. I think as leaders, we need to wrestle with vulnerability. So we have to be vulnerable as leaders sometimes to be able to reflect, have I been successful? Have I got this bit right? Which, we need to be able to say to ourselves, I'm not the finished article. So therefore there will be things that don't go quite so well. I've got to learn and I've got to reflect from that. So the first thing is just willingness to be vulnerable, because from vulnerability becomes that discovery and that improvement. So yeah, that self-reflection has to be a key part of it, because unless we do that, we think we've got it all, or we shut the doors off to that new learning, and therefore, as in leadership, we're taking people into unknown territory often, which includes ourselves. We might find that we haven't skilled ourselves for that next section. So
that's an interesting perspective on the notion of impact in relation to success, because actually what you're talking about is that you're judging yourself by the growth of yourself and those around you, rather than a series of thresholds that you cross that denote success. And perhaps for us in education and in industry, that feels a little alien, because that's how we're used to measuring impact. But maybe it's in that mindset shift that allows us to continue to grow as leaders.
Yeah, and there has to be that personal responsibility for it. I think what I've discovered, and I think any form of performance management, and this includes that on ourselves as leaders, if it's done to us, we don't take ownership of it. Whereas actually, if it's more about our professional development generated from ourselves and that willingness to want to improve, therefore we're more able to take that feedback because it's something we're generating from within.
Interesting. Okay, so we have all thoroughly enjoyed running these videos with you, and at the end of each of the videos for each chapter, you've put us all of us on the spot. So I'm going to put you on the spot now, Colin. If you had one top tip around defining success, what would it be?
Yeah. And I kind of should know this, shouldn't I? Should I be able to back off straight away, seeing as I've asked that of everybody else? So my top tip, well, bearing in mind I'm in charge of all these videos and all these books, I am going to bend the rules, and I'm actually going to give you two. I'm going to give you one for yourself and one for others. So the one for self, first of all, is just to remember, and I use this phrase in the book, that masterpieces aren't painted in a day. Just understand, and we need to know this as leaders, that we won't get it right all the time. There will be mistakes, and just to remember that it takes time sometimes to gain that success. So I think that's the first one for yourself. And the second one is the one that really impacts wider. So for me, success is not just the data and the numbers. The key thing is around people. And so just remember, success is judged by how you leave people in the room. And I use the phrase in the book around, being king or queen of your kingdom. You have to know that actually it's the people that you're working with that are most important. And so judging success on how you lead people, care for people, develop people, encourage people. Because if you forget that, you forget it at your peril, because then you end up being king or queen of no kingdom at all, because your kingdom are the people that you have within it.
Absolutely.
So yeah, just remember that actually success is about the fingerprint that you leave on people's lives, and that you leave them in a better position as you leave the room than when you came in.
Thank you. It's an absolute joy to interview you today, Colin.
Thank you.